The girl said, describe your music, and I said, it's a freight train full of fuck yeah.
All right, good morning, folks. Welcome to RenmanMusicandBusiness.com. My name's Steve Rennie, and I am the Renman, and this little program is called Renman Live. Hey, folks, if you're looking to do something great in this music business, you are in the right place today. Our guest today is Bay-Schuck, who happens to be the president of A&R for Interscope, Geffen, A&M Records, and he's making a return engagement here to Renman Live. Today, we're going to talk about his new gig, take some questions from our viewers, and Aaron is going to give some A&R advice to some young, lucky hopefuls that have submitted some music for us to listen to today. I can see the phone is already ringing today. Please be patient, folks. Before we get down to business, though, I want to take a moment to introduce you to our stunningly good Renman Live production team. Over in the corner, on camera 4, there he is, the Trojan man, Mr. Cody James. All right, and sitting next to him, Killer Kira O'Neill from Miami, Florida, now a full-fledged LA resident. Kira, hello, how are you today?
Doing great, I'm loving it.
Great. Folks, for the last couple of years here, we've been inviting some of the smartest, most talented, most successful people in the music business to join us here to talk about today's music business and to talk about what it takes to actually succeed. Now, against all odds, today is our 108th show, I'm happy to report. And what makes our show unique on the web, I think, is that it gives you a chance to actually talk and meet and ask questions from some of the smartest folks around. We got a saying around here at the joint, you don't ask, you don't get, and you don't learn anything, so don't be shy. I don't think that's going to be a problem today, do you folks? So ask some questions, and Kira, who I mentioned earlier, is going to tell you how you can go about getting involved in the show. Take it away, Kira.
All right, so you can go to Renman MB to our live events page. You have to register, you have to be a member to post your questions there, so that's for early, planner types, but today I'll be checking it as well. We have the crowd surfing chat room right to the right of the actual stream. You can post your questions in there. I'll be in there checking it out. You can hashtag Renman Live and it'll hit the Twitter feed, so anything hashtag Renman Live, Twitter feed, and crowd surfing. And then lastly, don't be shy, you can call in. If you call in, you're going to get some shirts.
Show him the number.
Oh, wait,
please.
where's the number?
Cody's looking for the 310-469-9067.
Yeah. Give me a break,
I'm going to put it up there for you, Cody. There it is. I'm going to put it up there again because I am in control over here. I got this badass little bike. All right, Killer. So you told the folks what they get, a T-shirt?
Yeah, they get a T-shirt. You can get a nice, soft, subtle Dream It, Do It shirt, or you can get an appropriate fucking fuck the gatekeeper shirt. I mean, come on. This is the shirt to choose. That one. All right. So just saying.
That's for one. You don't want to wear that to a nice place, but it does have a nice little statement there. Okay, that's it, folks. You know what to do now. Now let's get down to business. Our guest today is joining us for the second time. When he first joined us, he was a rising star in the A&R world at Atlantic Records, having signed acts like Bruno Mars, just to name a few. 2.5 years later, Bruno Mars got a lot bigger, and so did our friend Mr. Bay-Schuck. He's got a brand new gig as the president of A&R for Interscope, Geffen, A&M Records, where he oversees all aspects of the A&R and creative development for the Universal Music Group, which is the #1 label group in the business, if you didn't know that. He's been named to the Billboard 40 Under 40 list of top players in the music business. He started his career by being in the right place at the right time, and he's made the most of it. In many ways, he represents everything that I love about this business: a passion for music, dedication, determination, and a wonderful personal touch with the people that he works with. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome my good friend, Mr. Bay-Schuck.
Thanks, Ren. I'm blushing. That was
that was pretty good. I worked all night. Let me get the applause in there, too. Jeez. Okay, not to miss a cheap gag. First off, dude, I want to thank you for joining us here again. I went back through the archives and I saw that you were on show number 13, which I'm glad that had no impact on your luck in the business here. And I wanted to say thanks for coming back again. I really appreciate everybody takes the time to come and be on the show.
It's my pleasure.
So since we last talked, okay, When we last talked, you were vice president of A&R at Atlantic Records. Had signed Bruno Mars amongst a bunch of other talented bands. About what, a year ago now, almost?
Yeah, about 9 months.
You got a brand new gig, not just a small gig, a big gig in the music business. I want to see if we could talk about that a little bit today, if we could.
Anything you want.
All right,
Ask
perfect.
away.
You worked at the UMG group for Interscope, Geffen, and A&M. And for folks out there that may not be familiar, your predecessor, I suppose, in some way was a guy by the name of Jimmy Iovine, who was the legendary A&R Exec, one of the biggest guys in the business. And in many ways, he set the tone for the Interscope talent roster while he was there. And I imagine that while he was working there, it cast a bit of a shadow. Now he's gone and you're in charge of A&R. So I want to talk a little bit about that transition for you from being A&R guy in a big one to now the head of A&R for a big group where you're now responsible, not just for your acts, but for a whole bunch of acts. Talk about that if you would.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge. I think, every day as an A&R guy, I woke up determined to perform and deliver for the artists I had signed personally, but that was my world. It was my 7 or 8 acts, and that's what I woke up thinking about every day. And in the role that I'm in now, it's really about the big picture. It's about the performance of the label as a whole. It's about caring about what everyone on the A&R staff is excited about their projects, being aware of everything from their timelines to helping them find songs for their projects, to discussing the overall creative strategy for the label group. It's really just a job that's much bigger in scope.
Let me ask you this. When you take on a big position like that, the people hire you because they think you have a vision and they trust in what you're doing. How do you go about now putting your own touch on the tone of the department and the way things get done? Because every exec ultimately puts a bit of their own personality and professionalism in.
I think, my passion for A&R, it's varied, but my favorite aspect of it is the rolling up your sleeves record-making aspect of it, really getting knee-deep into the creative process. And so I feel like that was one of the first things I brought in, and it's what I practice and preach to my department, is artists can't always do it alone, and not even the best of them. And we really need to get in on a ground level with songwriters and producers and get in the studio and develop relationships with these creative people and help our artists become better by putting them in with these creative people that can make them better. So I think that's part of the philosophy that I bring in is real record making.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. When you're now, again, you said that when you were starting as an A&R, you kind of focus on your personal projects, and that is your world, right?
Yeah.
Now, as the head of A&R for not just one, but 2 or 3 different labels, how much of what gets signed to Interscope now and in the next few years reflects your personal taste in music versus your trust and taste of the instincts of your A&R department?
That's a good question. I'd say, I always take into consideration the opinions of the people on my team. I think that's critical to have that trust. In 9 months that I've been there, I've signed 4 or 5 things that I personally loved. We've signed probably another 4 or 5 of people on my team bringing me things that they were passionate about. But it's about trusting and believing in the people that you work with. So, if they bring me something and I really despise it, truly, we talk about it and I challenge them. And if they can, explain to me what it is about it that they think is special and do they have a vision for how it gets from point A to point B, then sometimes my opinion doesn't matter.
Yeah. Let me ask you another question. When you're the head of the A&R department for a big full-service label, like Interscope, do you make a conscious effort to cover the bases when it comes to genres of music? Your specialty's been more in the pop, hip-hop kind of world. Do you make a conscious decision to try to go wide, or do you just kind of keep it where it seems to want to go?
I definitely like looking at the landscape of what Interscope has and try to see, can we are there other areas in which we can be competitive? Are there holes in our roster? Are there types of artists that we would love to have that we don't? But I think ultimately what Interscope's always been great at is moving the needle forward and signing artists that are really about shaping culture and that fall on either one side of the fence, whether it's an alternative band or a rap act, and working very diligently to find a way to cross them more and more into the mainstream. So.
Yeah, good. We got a lot of questions here. We got a lot of questions posted here because this is a rare chance for people to actually get in touch with an A&R person. I hear so often from artists and managers about how tough it is to get an A&R person on the line. So today is a rare moment. So I want to ask a question and reward some of the folks that posted some questions in advance. And the first question is from a gentleman who's in a band called Rocket Band, I believe. And I'll read the question. It says, hey, Aaron and Renman, once an artist has put together the main components of their craft, songs, website, press, live photos, music, videos, distribution, live shows, and reviews, what would you say are the best ways of promoting an act? What is the best bait to put in the water? You spend time thinking about that on a daily basis.
Yeah, look, I think for me, it always all starts with the music. I'm not too concerned with all the extra things going on. That's the first thing that I look at and listen for is there something unique and special about the music? Is there something unique and special about the artist? So I think ultimately there's really nothing you can sprinkle on it to make us pay more or less attention. It's really, is it great? And that's what it comes down to.
So if you run into an artist out there, again, I get this question all the time. Hey, I've got lots of followers. I got lots of this. I got lots of that, right? In some ways, that might suggest that there is a market for it. And I think some A&R guys pay more attention to that to you. But for you, that doesn't concern you. If you didn't like the song, you saw all this other stuff happen. For example, you walk into a room and there's 3,000 screaming people in there, right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the Jason Flom when he went and saw Twisted Sister. He goes, hey, I don't get it, but there's 3,000 people. And does that have any impact when you see something working, even if it might not be your sweet spot?
It does, but I really like to think that myself and Interscope as a whole, as a creative team, is an instinct-driven creative department, meaning we're absolutely paying attention to the signs. We're looking at the research. If a song is getting played or selling, a band is selling a lot of tickets, we look at why that might be. But ultimately, it really comes down to the music. And if we think it's maybe about this one song and not about a larger picture, and that we don't think that act has a chance to be a career artist, and have a long-term success, then that's not really our business model. I think some other labels are really great at picking the one hit and moving on, but myself and our CEO, John Janik, really don't prescribe to that.
Yeah, well, that's been a winning recipe for some great labels over the year, thinking beyond the moment here.
Yeah.
Speaking of music, that's a great segue. First, let me do a little setup. When Aaron and I were out playing golf a couple weeks ago, networking on the weekend. Actually, it wasn't network. We were just out having some fun.
Playing.
We talked about what we could do to make things a little bit more interesting, given this is Aaron's return engagement here. So we thought it would be fun to actually go and submit some music, have some of our members submit music, and get a conversation with the real A&R folks. Now, I'll tell all you folks that talking with an A&R person is not the same as getting offered a contract from an A&R person. So I want to make that clear right out of the box. But if the mission is to get your music heard, you get some real feedback from people that can make a difference. Today we're going to do a little bit of that. So I want to first apologize for all the people that submitted ahead of time. We could only pick 2. And we couldn't get to them all, but I promise we'll try to do something like this again later. So our first submission is from a band in North Carolina who we were just talking about called SLEEPLUST. I hope I have that right. And the track is called Lies. So I wanted to play a little bit of the track, and then we're going to get Joe from the band on Skype with us, and Aaron's going to give you a little bit of input. So folks, grab your coffee and listen up. Code, take it away. All right, that was SLEEPLUST from North Carolina. And we have on Skype with us right now one of the members of the band. His name is Joe. You got him there, Code? All right, there he and the whole band. Nice.
Everybody's here, man.
Hey, SLEEPLUST.
Okay, why don't you guys introduce yourself there? I presume that's Joe on the right, our right.
Hey, Steve. Hey, Aaron. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm Joe. This is Megan.
Hey.
And this is Mike. Hey. My twin brother, Mike.
Joe, Megan, and Mike. Okay.
I'm glad you clarified that joke. So I'm thinking, God, those two look exactly alike. Okay.
Well, let me interrupt, Steve. That was really good. Really, really good, guys.
Thank you so much, Aaron. I really appreciate that, man.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm impressed. Is it Sarah? Was that your name?
Megan.
Megan. Was that you singing?
Yeah, she actually can't hear you.
Oh, she can't hear me. Okay.
She can't hear with this.
My bad.
Yeah.
But that was Megan singing, correct?
Yeah,
No?
wonderful voice. Got a real beautiful, intimate quality to it. I was impressed by that. Did you guys produce and write it yourself?
We did, yep. Right from the ground up. We produced, wrote it ourselves, and then we took it to a studio around here and mixed it and put it out.
It looks like you're sitting in a studio right now.
Well, this is actually my living room, believe it or not. we got pretty lucky with this place, right? It's nice.
I gotta say.
Yeah, it looks like a good vibe.
Maybe we're living in the wrong city.
Yeah, wrong
North Carolina. There's some
place.
great golf in North Carolina, and apparently much bigger houses for not a lot of money.
He's going to do episode 109 from your living room.
There you go.
Anytime.
Tell us a little bit about the band, Joe. What you guys doing? How long you been together? And
Yeah, so actually, it's relatively new. We've all known each other for a really long time, and through different musical projects have come together to form this band. And we're working on a record right now, putting together a really awesome live show. We have a few licensing opportunities with Bun & Murray out there in Los Angeles we're working on. And then we're looking to relocate to the West Coast actually later in the summer or early fall time. And just really trying to write the best songs we can right now together.
Awesome. Is that the first thing you've released? Just that one song?
It is actually. That's the first thing we've released.
We're absolutely on the right track. It's great.
let me ask you a question here. When you hear something, whether it's your A&R person or one of your contacts or somebody, your trusted sources brings you something, and you hear a track, what's the next step? Do you like to hear more? Do you start following the band? Do you start, do you engage? Do you just kind of watch from a distance?
If I like something, I'm pretty all over it right from the jump. Like I want to meet them. I want to understand how it's being made. Who's working on it? Is there more? So it's really important for me, for an artist to have a clear vision for their direction before I ever really engage in moving forward with an artist. I think I've learned a lesson that if an artist doesn't really know who they are going into a record deal, it's usually a problem. And it's fine if during the course of making that first album, that direction changes, they discover something about themselves they didn't know before and they want to pivot and go somewhere else. That can sometimes be very successful. But I think I always really want to try to understand if the artist understands who they are and if my vision for them is on the same page.
Yeah. Joe and company there. Let's see you.
Yes.
You guys got a chance to talk to a big-time A&R person here today. Questions? Lots of folks are trying to figure out how to connect. Here you are. What goes through your mind?
Well, I mean, that was very flattering. Thank you. We've been working really hard, and just to connect with you, I mean, I'll be out in Los Angeles in June. If you're interested in having a meetup, I'm more than welcome. I'm more than happy to. Other than that,
don't ask, you don't get.
Closed mouth doesn't get fed.
I would ask, what do you see as the next step in our progression? We're doing a record right now. We're planning some tour dates. Is that kind of what you want to see as the next step, or is there something else?
You can continue to record. I think it's always great to get out and play live, perfect that part of your craft. It sounds in the genre of music that you're in, a live show is critical. So I would just keep working, keep making better music, and then when you come out here, reach out. We'll see if we can meet up.
That sounds great.
All right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Great.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you guys so much.
Joe and company, thanks for joining us here today, and that's good stuff. That was good.
That was good, yeah.
It's funny. I hear so much great music out there, right? And I don't know how much they pay to make that and so forth, but I got to tell you, some of the stuff you hear now sounds like real records.
And it was done in a bedroom, yeah.
Yeah, and it's out of their bedroom, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a good question, a little lead-in.
I just hope other A&R guys aren't watching this right now, because we just kind of gave them
Well, you know, he already ready to book a lunch with you here, you know. And I think Joseph actually is a golfer too. He told me. So
Okay.
you know, you never know. That's the best one.
Okay.
There was a question from one of our members that might actually be a nice little follow-up to that. Cody, there was a question there from our member Cody James regarding artist development. He goes, hi, Aaron and Renman. Thanks for this very cool opportunity to ask questions. My question has two parts. Number one, do labels still do artist development deals for indie singer-songwriters like me? Or are they pretty much looking for artist bands that have already made a name for themselves? And number two, what kind of advice do you have for indie acoustic solo artists who are trying to get the attention of a label? That may be redundant, but...
Yeah, do we still do artist development deals? The short answer is absolutely. I don't call them that. I think, you know, unless an artist is walking in with thousands of fans already and multiple hits ready to be released, they're all artist development deals. I think artist development is critical and crucial, and it's different for every artist, but, you know, the type of deal we put forth will be reflective of where you are in your career, but I go into every deal thinking that we need to develop this together. So I think the old school of like something that's a full record deal versus an artist development deal is sort of, you know, null and void at this point.
Yeah.
And then I forget what the second question was. What can a singer-songwriter do to get attention? It's just the same thing, you know, write great songs and we'll hear them. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. Let me ask you a little follow-up question to that. When you think about big full-blown record deals, right? And I know back when I was doing big full-blown records, it's been trimmed some sale from back in those days.
Yeah.
But back when I remember when I first managed band, we got a quote development deal where it was Tom Wally back in the day at Capitol Records, who was he was in your shoes, just starting as an A&R guy. And he offered a band I was working with $5,000 to come in and record. My son has been down to the old Atlantic Record Studios in Hollywood, and it seemed like there were a lot of young bands in there who were kind of like, hey, why don't you come in for a couple nights and see what you do? Do you still do those kind of deals?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, but sometimes we just try to develop a relationship so early on and be a part of the developmental process. And maybe we'll cover some studio time. Maybe we'll put them in with some songwriters or producers to help them figure it out if we've got a vision for it, but aren't necessarily ready to pull the trigger and do a full-on record deal. But you know, I really can't say that we do these small little deals that, you know, just to sort of wait and see if something comes together. If I believe, and I go all in.
Yeah. Gotta love it. And it all starts with a song. I say it all the time. And it's, you know, everybody's looking for an easy answer. Start with a great song.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back to your gig here a little bit. Building an A&R team, right? When you come into a new company as the head of A&R, right, you inevitably inherit an existing staff of A&R executives and so forth. But you also get an opportunity over time to bring in some new folks, your own folks, if you will, right? My question is, have you brought in some new folks to the label since you've been there? I know it's early days. And if so, when you're hiring A&R folks, for all the folks that aspire to be an A&R person like yourself, what is it that you look for in that A&R person when you're building out your team?
I definitely have made some hires since coming in. I hired a really great A&R guy named Daniel Warman, who brought me an act named Borns, who's one of the most buzzing alternative acts right now, was the first thing I signed when I got in there. And that's how Dan earned his gig, was by playing me Borns, and now he's my A&R partner on the project. I hired a A&R guy. I've really made sure that Interscope is going to be investing in the Nashville music business, and not necessarily to find the next country act, but the next great pop, rock, crossover thing that's coming out of Nashville, because there's so much of that, so much talent. And so to that end, I hired a guy who's been in the business a long time, Kevin Williamson, who is, you know, I think of him as a legend in the business. You know, worked with everyone from Mr. Big to Michelle Branch to Jewel to Sugar Ray, the Wreckers, and he's just a phenomenal A&R guy with great relationships in Nashville, and he's been a tremendous asset. And we're just really starting to build what Interscope represents in Nashville now. He's been on the team for a few months. And then I'm really also interested in non-traditional A&R people, not just people to come inside and be A&R executives, but what songwriters, what producers, what managers, what lawyers can we tap into that might be really valuable A&R resources too. And to that end, I've done a deal with a brilliant artist, songwriter, and producer named Robin Hannibal. Done another A&R consultancy deal with Ariel, who produced everything from Usher's Climax to Vampire Weekend to Haim. I've done a deal with Matt Toka, who's an artist that used to be signed to Atlantic and Warner Brothers. So really just trying to think out the box. There's lots of different types of A&R people and lots of different skills that come in a good A&R person. So, you know, trying to cover my bases that way.
Gotta love it. Let me ask you about that David guy. You know, when you hire you obviously hired some senior guys, Kevin Williams.
Yeah.
I think that he worked at Atlantic back in the day.
He
If
did.
I don't recall, he used to have Ted Nugent long hair back in the day.
That's right.
It's probably
Yo dude, right?
Exactly. Kev, sorry. Okay. You know, when you find a person like this, Dana, I presume he was not working at a record company.
He was not.
How does he get in your world?
I knew Dan for a long time growing up in Los Angeles, and he was an A&R guy early in his career at Warner Brothers.
Okay.
I don't know how long ago now, 9, 10 years, but we kept in touch because he joined a music and marketing firm in New York, and there were marketing initiatives that some of my acts worked on, so we had a close relationship through that. And at one time, he was thinking of managing the act that I'm talking about, Borns, which didn't happen, but he played me the music, and I loved it. And when someone brings me something that special, they earn a gig. That's one of the ways they can do it.
Yeah. Great advice there, folks. You know, I think so many people are trying to figure out that there's some button they're going to push, but it really always comes back to if you've got something and you show the signs, people will figure it out sooner or later. All right, let's take, we got any questions in the chat room there, Kira?
Oh, no, not yet.
Oh.
Not with Skype and all that stuff going on.
Okay, Kira, that's
Love
lack
you.
of staff here, so we might, if there's some young folks out there that can help us multitask here, that would be freaking great here, I suppose. Okay, let's talk about A&R a little bit more here. When you first came on the show, I've told this story a million times here, and it speaks to the value of persistence, right? When you were a young A&R person, it's hard for anybody to imagine now that Bruno Mars was anything less than a slam dunk. But you're nodding your head going, oh, there were lots of people that didn't believe that.
Plenty, most.
You went to your boss at Atlantic Records, not once, not twice, but I believe it was 3 times before you got him to say yes.
Yeah.
True story?
True story.
And I know it must have been frustrating for you to do that. I think it's ironic now that you get to be the guy that you were probably cursing in the bathroom. So my question to you is this. Imagine there's a new Aaron Bay-Schuck who's been signed up. He showed you some chops. He's got some band. He's just dying to get signed to the label. You see something there, but you think it's not quite right. Mm-hmm. How does Aaron Bay-Schuck, having been through that, deal with the new Aaron Bay-Schuck coming up?
You know, still only 9 months in, so I think time will tell if I pass 3 times on an artist that will be the next Bruno Mars. But I really try to gauge an A&R person's passion for something. If they're willing to fall on the sword for it and put their career on the line for an act, that's really important. You know, I think they're on this team for a reason. They're on this team because they're skilled in what they do, and you know, not everybody's going to get everything. So I just, you know, if I really try to think back to how it was for me when I was a young guy trying to impress my boss with an act, and you know, if I catch that glimmer of like, you know, I might not love this, but I gotta roll with my guy on this one, then I do my best to do that. It's tough. I think. Ask me again when I'm on episode 207.
207, yeah, I hope we get to 207.
What kind of process that's been for
now,
me.
I'll say this to people all the time when they're trying to build a relationship or something. You need to have a new story every time you come in. And maybe Aaron didn't mention, but you kept adding to the story of Bruno Mars. You didn't come in with the same old story the first 2 times, right? You got him, you paired him up, you kept doing. You didn't just get frustrated and go in the corner and get pissed off. You kept working.
No, that's a really important point to make. It wasn't bring him in, get rejected, not talk to him for 2 years, bring him in again, get rejected, not talk to him for 2 years. Myself, Bruno, his writing partner Phil, and Ari, everyone on his management team, we all worked very, very hard to develop him as a songwriter and a producer. And Bruno was relentless in writing for as many other artists as he could be to perfect his craft. And through doing that, he really figured out who he was. And even in doing the deal, you asked about the artist development deal. We were going to do a kind of a smaller digital EP artist development deal. And in the process of doing that, he wrote Nothing on You, he wrote Billionaire, and of course the rest is history. We dramatically altered the type of deal we were going to do, and we knew exactly how we were going to break him and set him up to be one of the biggest stars in the world, which he now is. Yeah.
Do you miss working with him when you inevitably in the music business, right? If you're successful, it's rare that somebody will stay in one place, whether you're an artist or a professional.
Yeah.
And when you had a chance to work with somebody that intimately, do you miss working with an artist like that? Is it easy to let that go and go down to the next gig?
I miss it. Honestly, I miss it very much. But when somebody is that talented, you just want to be around them. You want to be a part of the process, whether it's just one or two comments you make during an entire recording process. Those are special moments.
Yeah.
But that being said, that was a really unique experience where I was seeing an artist perform in front of 5 people, spend nights on my couch, and then 4.5 years later playing the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And that's a very difficult thing to duplicate. I could have tons of A&R success for the rest of my career and not even come close to duplicating that. So I needed a new challenge.
Yeah, we'll talk some more about that in a second. Yeah. Speaking of challenges, getting heard, getting in front of A&Rs is always a trick, as we talked about. I want to play a track from a young gal from New Zealand, who, in the interest of full disclosure, not only is it a pretty great track, but I met her through this online course that we developed, and we had a chance to get to know her a little bit, but I never had a chance to hear any of her music until we offered this opportunity to get some music in front of you. So the other day, we get a bunch of stuff comes in and somebody's playing this track in the background. I said, "Who's that?" And she goes, "That's Yassamine." I said, "Yassamine from New Zealand?" Anyway, I was stoked to hear the music because I'd only ever talked to her about the challenge of the music. So anyway, that's a little setup here. I want to play you a track here from a gal by the name of Yassamine. I can't remember her last name. Pardon me, Yassamine, but she already knows I'm forgetful. It's called London, and so I want to play that, and then we're going to get her on the phone. It must be freaking crack of dawn in New Zealand, but we'll give it a go anyway. Cody, play the track here for Aaron.
London, oh, London, 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 oh, London, 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 oh, London, London, tears don't dry in London. I'm giving away my heavy heart, giving it away. Good, no more worries about a future I can't see, and I'm not sure that anyone else could. My mother said I've lost my mind, packing my bags to London. I hate to say it, but I know she's right. Distance won't change a thing, so no more songs for him. London, oh, London, 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 oh, London, 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 oh, London, London, tears don't dry in London. Gonna breathe in the seasons, remind myself of what I believe, and take a walk by the blue. Forget there was ever me and you. My mother said I've lost my mind, packing my bags to London. I hate to say it, but I know.
All right, there she is, Yassamine from New Zealand. Where are you today,
morning.
Yassamine?
I'm in Australia today, actually. Yeah, so it's a bit earlier, but I'm just on holiday at the moment. So.
All right, well,
Thanks for
meet
joining
Aaron
us.
Bay-Schuck, Yassamine from New Zealand.
Hi,
Nice to meet
you.
you. Yeah, thanks for joining us so early on your vacation.
No worries.
All right, so Yassamine, I was stoked to hear your track. We've only ever talked here, and we played it for Aaron here, and I'm interested to get his thoughts on it, and then give you a chance to ask a real A&R guy, which I know we talked about on our course a number of times, how you get to A&R people, and here you are.
Yeah, it's a good song. It's very easy to listen to, real catchy. I enjoyed it. What would you like to ask me about? Anything in particular?
Sure. So my plan is to try and get the attention of people in the record industry in New Zealand. So it's a much smaller music industry. And I just wondered if there's a way you prefer not to be contacted. Like, what would be the way I should avoid to try and get in touch with A&R people? So I'm still gigging and doing, releasing things online, that kind of thing. But I think it's still important to get in touch with industry people just to be on their radar for a reason. Yeah, so I'm just wondering if you got any advice.
Well, I always think email's the best way, truthfully. And I think what's important is a lot of people want to get in touch with the guy at the very top. You should be reaching out to do the research on who the junior A&R guys are, who they're the ones that are listening to anything and everything that come in. And I think that's a really important point. Everyone wants to talk to the CEO, to the president, but look up the Universal New Zealand executive roster, Universal Australia, some of the US-based labels, and reach out to some of the younger guys. They're as hungry as you are to make a name for themselves in their profession. So that would be one bit of advice I would give.
Cool. And once, if I do hear back from any of them, would there be a sort of a filter I should, not a filter, I mean, I know I can't be choosy, but is there something where an A&R person would say that I would know they're not taking it seriously, or I should actually, is there any red flags for like a less experienced person, or is it just about building relationships at this stage?
Yeah, I mean, get as many opinions as you can. I like to think, at least at Interscope, all of our A&R people are honest and direct, and certainly not going to lead you on if they're not interested. Cool. But yeah, and I think it's important. Don't overload them. Sometimes artists don't always know what their best stuff is because you're so close to it. But send one or two at a time. Wait for some feedback. If you don't hear, follow up again. But I think there's a tasteful way to be aggressive, and so I think less is usually more.
Okay. When somebody's contacting you, Aaron, as a manager, I had a saying, put the no in their mouth and make them spit it out, because sometimes in the business, as you know, people want to be nice, they want to be considerate, and perhaps they overdo it in the interest of just saying, I don't think that's for me. Right. When you talk to your A&R guys, you tell them to be direct, say, hey, look, I don't think that's for us, but if you got something else, send it to me, or is it? Yeah,
I mean, that's always the way I did it, because I learned that if I'm not direct and honest about how I feel it, then the follow-up keeps coming and keep coming and keep coming, and that actually causes more stress. I'd really like to just let a person know I'm into it or I'm not, and leave it at that.
There you have it.
Cool.
I did want to make one suggestion on your song. I think it's really good. It's linear in a lot of ways, so you hear that chorus a lot. And I was just thinking, and it's a catchy chorus, but I was just thinking maybe you should go back into the arrangement a little bit. I think play with that intro chorus, maybe shorten it a bit. I think you hear the chorus 5 or 6 times in the song, and it's a lot. Since each chorus is basically the same thing, it doesn't really build throughout. So just something to think about as you perfect what you're doing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sweet. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, Yassamine, can I ask you, you think about Australia as being really hot. You look like you're on the North Pole there today. I guess it's
cold.
I guess
it
it's
is
winter.
Cold.
Great.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Yassamine, I want to thank you for joining us today, and I want to encourage you to keep at it and
thank you, Steve.
and keep doing all the right things. She's got a great passion for this and does her homework and is doing all the right things. And for all you indie artists out there today, you could take a page out of Yassamine's book. So great to see you again.
Thank you, Yassamine.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Bye.
All righty. I see we have a phone call over there, Kira. Yes. Kira's buried over there. I got to tell you, maybe you got some interns over there at the campus. Hey, come over and help Rennie out. You can be the chat room specialist. All right, who do we have on the phone? Is this going to be a good one?
think so. It's Tim.
All right, let's talk.
This is Tim.
All right, Tim, how you doing? You're on with Aaron Bay-Schuck. Where are you from, Tim?
Hey, man, I'm loving it, Ren. I want to just quick kudos to you for building a new paradigm in the music industry and in the ultimate tradition of fuck the gatekeeper.
Fuck yeah.
I'm going to ask Aaron if he's ready. This is the question. Is he ready to turn me on to that new girl or guy in the basement office so our music can get heard so we can help change the paradigm of music and bring rock and roll back in it?
Fuck yeah.
I stand by
Goddamn,
it.
Tim.
Let's go.
Well, Aaron,
Let's go.
You can
Dude, let's do it because I'm telling you.
Away.
The girl said, describe your music, and I said, it's a freight train full of fuck yeah.
what? You know? Hey, Tim, what's the name of that freight train?
Well, I'm in Naples, man. We're on the last dot of Florida down next to the Everglades and the alligators, dude. We got nowhere to go but up.
What's the name of your band, Tim?
The name of my band, and I always say, we are Freedom Evolving, and so are you.
Freedom Evolving.
Freedom Evolving.
Freedom.
And so
Yeah, I
are
say
you.
we are Freedom Evolving is the name of the band, but I always say we are Freedom Evolving, and so are you.
All right,
It was between that or fuck the gatekeepers.
Yeah.
When they went with that.
No,
I
man,
kinda like
yeah.
this. I like that. What was that first one? The freight train of fuck you?
A freight train of fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah. God damn, there's the whole
Fuck
marketing
yeah. When
campaign.
you hear this music, you're going to go, fuck yeah.
Now,
I get it.
Let me ask you this, Aaron. When, right now rock is in, and I'm a big rock fan, everybody knows that, it's been on a bit of a hiatus, if you will. There's a lot of pop and there's some kind of alt-pop rock, but it's all kind of sugary, sweet, and
Yeah.
it feels like it all came from a bedroom where, a freight train of rock sounds more. Are you guys looking, do you actually make a conscious effort to look, or are you just looking for a great rock song?
Actually,
Yeah.
our CEO, John Janik, and I talk about that a lot, and that's really part of what I'm hoping to find down in Nashville or in the surrounding areas around there. We want the next great rock band. That's important to us. It's been important to Interscope's legacy and Janik, who built his career building Fueled by Ramen, one of the most successful indie rock alternative labels ever. It's important to both of us, so we're actively looking for that.
All right, so I'll tell you what, Tim.
Well, you just found him, Renman. Are you kidding me? We're the game changer. You're talking to him.
And we haven't even heard a note of music, Tim.
If I wasn't so confident that my music will speak the whole volumes, I certainly wouldn't talk this way, sir.
Okay, all right. I'll tell
It's
you
that
what.
impeccable.
I'll tell you
You'll
what
dig
you're going to do. Kira's going to give you my email address, and you send me a link to some stuff, and I'm going to send it to Aaron, and he's going to go find one of his rock guys that's looking for a freight train of fuck yeah. And if he's
Hell yeah.
if he's hearing that train rolling down the track, maybe he'll get a call back.
All right, man. I love it. That's all
That's
one
right.
can ask, man.
Oh, God.
Thank you, sir. Have a beautiful
Thank
day.
you, Tim.
Hey, Tim.
Wage peace.
Hey, Tim.
Wage peace, man. Yeah.
Hey, Tim, you got to try to come out of your shell a little bit, okay?
I've been told that. I've been trying. I got a therapist. I told her. Everybody says I'm not. I need to learn to come out of my shell.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm working on it, man.
Well, this is Aaron's second visit. Maybe we'll have you back on again.
Yeah.
Tim, thanks
Be
for...
careful of those alligators.
Exactly. Be careful of those alligators.
Hey, y'all wage peace. Bye. Thanks.
Perfect.
Bye.
That was fucking awesome, dude. That just... A freight train of fuck yeah. Okay, there's a clip.
You got to make that T-shirt now.
There you have it. Okay, back on to, not less exciting, but other matters here. I want to talk a little bit more about your A&R gig. When you were an A&R exec, your main focus was making records,
Yeah.
Actually, I already went through that one. Shit, wrong question. Now, I'll get there. Oh, I'm freezing up here, Cody. There you go. What I was going to talk about is that now that you're an executive and you're now involved with all these different things, managing the company, managing politics, managing other people, I imagine it's had some impact on your ability to now go in the studio and make records. So I wanted to ask you how, if it's impacted your ability and how you balance those things, manage your time, and then I want you to talk about some of the records that you might be working on right now.
The honest answer absolutely is yes. It has cut into my time to be in the studio and be creative. There's just, when you're overseeing the entire department and we've got, 100 acts on the roster, and a lot of them active, and a team of 15 A&R people. It's a challenge to be able to remove yourself from that and simply just be in the studio focused on making an album. So there's definitely some of that I've lost. But the beauty of Interscope is that we have a state-of-the-art 5-room studio directly across the street, as well as another room in our building. So we do a lot of our sessions there, and it makes it easier for me to pop in and out, just walk across the street, take a break from whatever I'm doing in the office, check in on a session, and that at least gets me feeling like I'm still connected to the process. So I think as I continue to do this job a little bit longer, I'll find a happier balance between those two things.
I can only imagine that it's a whole freight train of headaches in some ways. Let me ask you this. What are some of the artists? Now, you're the head of A&R, and so you can sign stuff, but I know as the head of A&R, you wind up inheriting some acts, and oftentimes some big ones who want to talk to the boss, not necessarily the junior A&R guy. I'm told you're working with Gwen Stefani and Selena Gomez, both who've had lots of success, both who have been, you're big-time artists. How is it when you are working with artists like Selena or Gwen Stefani, who you didn't sign, but now you're asked to be involved on what will be important records for them and for the company, I suspect. Yeah,
I treat it just like anything else. Everybody, these artists, whether they're multi-platinum or new, all want to make great records and have someone that's passionate about their project and help them make the best record that they can. So, it certainly hasn't been an intimidating thing. You just come in and you be yourself and you bring your skill set to what they're doing. My passion has always been developing acts. So it is great that even as the head of A&R, I not only inherit some, legendary acts, and a project like Selena Gomez is so fun because everybody wants to be a part of it. I can pick up the phone and I can get any of the top creative people in the business to want to work on it because she's a talented artist who sells records and has hits. And people want to be a part of that. So in a lot of ways, that's a nice blessing. You don't always get that with some of your more developing acts, but I've signed a few in my 9 months that I'm really, really excited about watching them get from the early stages of their career to playing big venues.
Talk about it. I got a list here of some of the acts that you've signed recently. Is it Bjorns or Borns?
Borns.
Borns, Jared James, Wash, Billy Rafool. Talk about some of those acts here and fill us in, because I have a feeling we'll be hearing more from some of these acts, God willing.
Hopefully you're already hearing about Borns. Borns is one guy, but he's supported by a band. And we've got our single Electric Love out now, moving up the charts at Alternative and AAA. And, it's reminiscent of Mark Bolan, T-Rex, Midnight Vultures era, Beck. Just a really, really talented singer, songwriter, and a feeling of a vibe out there that I don't think anyone else is really doing. Billy Rafool is one I smile from ear to ear every time I get to be in a room with him. He's our first signing to come from the Adventures in Nashville. He turns 21 this weekend, actually, and the direction is still sort of coming together. That's one where he came in my office, sat down, played me a few songs acoustically that he had written, and I didn't want to let him leave. I had to sign it. It just feels like the kind of voice that you hear once every 20 years. So that's going to be a really fun one to develop and really figure out exactly what the direction is going to be. And then I'll pick one more. Jared James is a talented artist from Australia who's already had a #1 record there with a song called Do You Remember? It's spreading quickly through Europe. And that lives in the alternative R&B space. And we'll start getting that project going here in the U.S. in about a month or so. So it's what I've loved about Interscope so far is we sign things early, but we don't wait years and years and years to get the market. Our speed to market is quick, and it's if music is ready, we go.
You mentioned a guy like Billy Rafool who might not quite be there yet. When you sign an act like that, how do you help that guy get to where you think he needs to be or where he wants to be a little bit quicker?
I put him with the best people right from the jump. I've got Kevin Williamson, as I mentioned, handling the A&R process in Nashville, where Billy lives. So Kevin's been putting him with the best people in the business down there, and Billy's so eager to be better, to learn his craft, and so it's just been a dream to work with, because he trusts us. He trusts the people that have been doing this for a while and know who the best people are, and he goes in with a smile on his face and writes a great song that's better than the last one every single time.
Boy, that's a recipe for something good to happen here. All right, we got a call on the phone there, Kira?
We do.
Is it going to be as good as our last guy, Tim? Let's be honest.
I don't think so. It's a little bit more serious. It's about, investing their own money.
Ooh, let's take one of those. Let's see if we can help somebody spend some money or save some money. Who do we got?
He's using a stage name, which is called Baby Savage.
Baby Savage on the line here today with us. You're on with Aaron Bay-Schuck, baby. Where are you from?
Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
From Baton Rouge, Louisiana. God damn, I love Louisiana. Okay, what's your question for Aaron Bay-Schuck today?
I wanted to know, can an artist bring in his own money to actually fund a development deal or a single with the company, with a record label?
You would do that before you got into business with us. You'd fund the single and fund the video, and if it was something that we loved and wanted to be in business with you on, then we'd partner moving forward.
Okay, great.
Now we had a gentleman by do you know Nick Raphael? He's part of you. He's a colorful character at the very least, and we had somebody called in, baby. If you haven't watched that, you should check it out. Aaron's a little less rough than Nick, who had some suggestions about spending your own money, and his comment was, go spend a little money to get the attention of a label, right? Yeah. But be careful to go out and play label. And I'll say this, baby, that when you're out there, people think it's just about the money, right?
Right.
Your experience, Aaron, there's no shortage of money in a company like Interscope, but it's not just about the money, is it?
No.
It's about knowing who to hire and having a team and all of that stuff. So be careful with spending your own money there, baby.
Yeah, I mean, I think the important thing with spending money is that you can spend very little and get high quality results. Some of our best videos are $5,000. Some of our best songs were written in a bedroom. So I think it's really, you have to be strategic about where that money is being spent.
Perfect. All right, baby, thanks for calling in here today, my friend. Okay, let's see. We're running out of time here. I promised Aaron I would try to get him out of here before the hour is up here. Okay, so last question. Last two questions for you. First, for most of you folks that don't know, if you consider that most of the folks that are running major labels today, with the exception maybe of John Janik, who's in his 40s.
He's 37.
Okay. Wow. Okay, John, you're a real freak, okay? One day we'll hopefully have him on the show here. But most of the folks are in their 50s, 60s. I know Steve Barnett's in his 60s. I think Doug Morris is in his 70s, if not 80s. Clive Davis is clearly in his 80s, although he might rewrite history a little bit. Yeah. So when you look at that, you are a very, very young guy in the business. You're almost a kid, I'm going to say, You started as a temp. You moved up as an A&R assistant, sneaking into parties with the card when your boss was invited and he couldn't go. Yeah. Became a junior A&R exec, then a VP of A&R, and now you're the head of a huge label. Do you ever think about what's next for Aaron Bay-Schuck? Is it too early to think about that?
Maybe. I always have. I've always wanted to project out a little bit and imagine where I want to be. It helped me, figure out my path on a day-to-day basis. But I think for once I feel really settled. And I think I've got a lot to prove. John Janik and I both do. John coming in and becoming the CEO of a label run by Jimmy Iovine for 20 plus years. Those are big shoes to fill. And myself leaving a iconic record label where I had one of the biggest artists in the world to go to another iconic label and kind of build an A&R department that didn't previously exist. And it's really Interscope is a new building these last couple of years and continues to be compared to what it was before. So I think, what does the future hold? It's about turning it, continuing to make Interscope the powerhouse that it always has been, moving forward, continue that trajectory and continue to build a new iconic label.
Do you ever think about being a president of a label?
I think about it.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that.
In time, I guess. Exactly. Yeah, you always got to get a few other people to think about it. Okay, one final question. You got any other questions on the chat room, Kara, before we wrap it up?
Yeah, we do. We have a nice question from Jen out in New Jersey.
Jen in New Jersey. What's the question there, Kara?
She said, what are the first steps Aaron takes to encourage someone to develop themselves as an artist? And what tips does he give them? And where does he tell them to start?
Good question. I think you first have to try to recognize and be real with yourself about what your strength is. Is it your voice? Is it your songwriting ability? Is it your production? Is it how you present yourself live? And really hone that piece of what you do, because every artist doesn't need to be able to do it all on their own. So I think be real with yourself, understand really where you are and what level you're at and how talented you are in that area, and then try to get with like-minded people that can help you be better. There's so many ways to network these days with different songwriters and producers, and they're all over the place online. I think you need to be proactive and reach out, and that's a big part of how you develop and figure out who you are as an artist.
Yeah, I think that's great advice for folks, who are sometimes waiting for somebody to come and give them the answer. The truth is, the successful artists, Bruno Mars is a classic example. They kept going out and trying to make things happen on their own.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of the most important things you can do if you're just starting off. Okay, one final question here. I think when people are thinking about working at a record label, right, the A&R guys are like the scoring positions on a football team. Nobody wants to play tackle or guard.
Right.
That's like the distribution guys. And we had Jim Uri on here. He didn't like it when I said that. The A&R guys is the glimmer position out there in the quarterback, right? So for folks out there that are dreaming of being an A&R person like yourself, that are just starting, what advice? You said you had all kinds of different ways to become an A&R. What advice would you have for somebody that's looking to find a way into work in the A&R business?
If we're talking about how to break into the A&R business as your first gig in the business, I think the best advice I can give is that you can do it anywhere. A&R is there's so much of it is done online now with the tools that are available to you online. The search for talent can be done anywhere. So I always resent when people say, well, I can't be an A&R guy unless I'm in the building. All I do every day is look at talent, listen to music, think about it critically, think of ways to make records and make my artists better. Almost none of those, granted, I've got the resources and the infrastructure because I'm inside, but those are all things and skills you can develop not actually being an employee of a record label. So I think that's great. I mean, I did it the real old-fashioned way, from temp to assistant, working my way up every step of the way. But that's another way to go. Apply for an entry-level position and get your foot in the door and prove yourself to be indispensable once you get in there. And that's one way to do it. But A&R is a tough thing to crack into. Admittedly, it's not. A&R jobs. There's not a lot of turnover. They don't open every day. So you kind of have to do it on your own. Find something great and get somebody's attention that way.
I'll tell you what's been interesting for me to watch is how many folks are taking that to heart. These kids that start blogs, that find different ways to actually show their taste in music, and it's a great stuff. Kira, I think I told Aaron I'd get him out of here at the hour mark, so I'm going to live up to my promise here. So we'll tell that gentleman, I'll try to answer that one after the show myself here. First off, before we go, I want to tell you about some upcoming shows. We had a Renman U webinar for this online course that I put together, and we had a total technical meltdown the other day. It was kind of like walking out for your set, right? And the lights didn't work, the sound didn't work, and the power in the building went out, so we actually had to cancel it. So we've rescheduled that, folks, for Tuesday at 12 p.m. We're going to do that. On Wednesday, June 10th, we're going to talk to one of the top managers in the business, a gal by the name of Sarah Stennett, who I don't know.
Sarah's great, yeah.
Sarah's awesome. I met her briefly. And then on June 24th, we're going to have big-time producer, songwriter. He's written 1 million big hits over the years, including that Alanis Morissette record that sold, I don't know, 30, 40 million copies back there. His name is Glenn Ballard, and he's going to be joining us to talk about making music. So I want to thank you, Aaron, for joining us here today.
Thank you.
I want to thank all of our wonderful crew back there and all the folks that submitted music, that phoned in, called on the telephone, and posted on the chat board. It's been fun having you. I hope you learned something here today. My name's Steve Rennie. I am the Renman. This show is Renman Live, and we will see you next week.
You can be the most talented, ambitious fucker on the universe. If you are unlikable, the public are going to hate you. If you are you are a number two, ambitious.